What's up guys, back with another training log and Q&A of the week. Brief recap, again, things are feeling good. I haven't done the Saturday workout yet, who knows, maybe I'll drop a bench on myself and die. But I have to be at a meet later that day and I don't have enough time to record later, so doing this recording Friday. I have felt a bit more fatigued this week, I think in part because I've been doing some extra redacted activities outside the gym. I'm going to stay more conservative with that and only work that exercise in when I feel recovered enough. Now, related to that, I want to talk about working other goals besides the basic SBD, because I know a lot of people have goals beyond just big 3 lifts, or they're not powerlifters, but do have several goals in the gym they want to work on. These could be goals with a good amount of carryover, like front squats and back squats. If you want to work both of these together, it can be easier given some overlap between the two. What benefits one tends to help the other a bit. It's pretty easy to push these goals simultaneously, but you could be doing something that's quite different. You could be focused on playing a sport like soccer as well as weightlifting, or doing something like running. When two things aren't really strength focused, how do we work the two? Well, 2 things I think we should keep in mind: periodization and minimum effective dose. Well, first off, periodization is basically focusing on different goals in different periods. The most popular form is block periodization, so in powerlifting that may be focusing on hypertrophy in one phase of a few weeks, then strength in another phase for a few weeks, and then maybe a peaking phase where we're cutting fatigue to boost our strength for a max. Or if you're not a powerlifter, it could be something like focusing on your low bar squat in one phase, then focusing on your deadlift in the next block. Or for cross-training athletes, maybe focusing on lifting one block and running in another. You get the point, alternating focuses and goals. Now, research on block periodization in terms of strength and hypertrophy has tended to show no or actually slightly negative benefits to it. The origins of block periodization weren't for lifters focused on one goal though, it was for athletes of other sports who may need to improve strength, but also endurance and agility, so it can be easier to improve each of these aspects if you focus on just one at a time. And I also think you can see how this would work out well if you look at research on the minimum effective dose. Basically, it takes a lot less stimulus to maintain your gains than it does to spur new progress. This study found that months of training with 1/9 of the original volume was enough to maintain the gains made. Now, I wouldn't take the numbers from a single study too literally, but it illustrates the general phenomenon. It takes a lot less to maintain than spur progress. So putting this all together, if you have multiple goals, which may not carry over well between one another, instead of overly fatiguing yourself trying to push both at once, ruining the quality of both training, just alternate. Focus on one versus the other in blocks. You can do enough work to maintain one while you push the other. And this has some other benefits too. It can keep things fresh, helping with dedication and mental effort, plus enjoyment of training. This is a strategy that reactive training systems used for deloads, pivot weeks. Basically train something different than usual for a week. You usually squat low bar, well maybe do high bar for a deload or pivot week. Injury-wise, movement variation can prevent overuse as well, which is important for more long-term chronic injuries. So that's what I have to say about my training this week and the tangent related to it. Now on to the Q&A portion of this video. Comment questions you have below. So first question, why so much bench frequency and volume? Well, the short answer is, it works. Now, the longer answer, here's my theoretical approach to upper and lower body work in powerlifting. We have 2 lower body lifts, squats and deadlifts, but just one upper body lift, the bench press, which means to me, theoretically, our bench work should be about as much as our squat and deadlift work combined. In fact, probably a bit more, given upper body work is smaller muscles without as much axial loading, thus we're going to have a bit less fatigue from it. Bench is also more technical, it can benefit from more skill practice from higher volumes. Now, practically speaking, this may require some movement variation to prevent overuse. On lower body, we have that with squats and deadlifts, but with bench, this could just be some variations, and also just more isolation work. Now, a similar question I got, what do I do if my bench is plateauing? So there are a lot of things that can affect bench progression, obviously, but the most widely applicable one I see with lifters is not putting on muscle and size over time. I think you can see that from how many skinnier big deadlifters there are. You don't really see many skinny big benchers. Bench and upper body lifts in general I find benefit the most from gaining weight and muscle mass, so my number one tip if your bench is plateauing is to focus on building muscle, maybe go into a bulk. Next question, how do I work on a weak back and core from relying on a belt? So this is not a thing. Wearing a belt does not weaken the core muscles over time. It doesn't negatively affect core engagement. What might happen is some people feel less confident pulling without a belt, in which case I would just do more pulls beltless. Though I would wonder if this is just an artificial issue. You can wear a belt in competition, you can wear a belt while lifting, and I don't know how many people are in real world situations where they're afraid of lifting things without a belt. Next question, how do you build strength with only lower reps? Well, theoretically, this should be better. Higher percentages tend to lead to better strength gains, and lower reps make it easier to do higher percentages with less difficulty. Higher reps do not seem to be any better for hypertrophy, despite what people say though. I do think there are some practical reasons to use higher reps. I have a long video on this below. The short version is it can be easier to use strict form to isolate muscles on hypertrophy focused movements, and more reps can be a good way to get more skill practice in, especially at a bit lighter weights for strength. Next question, when should I do my last heavy lifts before max out? So short answer, bench will be about half a week out, squat about a week out, and deadlift about a week to 2 weeks out. So longer answer is it depends obviously. People who are bigger and stronger will take longer to recover and thus need to do it further out, vice versa with smaller and less strong, more novice lifters, or people who are younger and thus are better able to recover. The lift affects things too. Generally speaking, bench recovers quickest, squat the middle, and deadlift about as long as squat or longer. And of course, there are going to be individual differences here. A really upright, short femur squat will be less fatiguing than a really bent over squat. A huge arch bench recovers super quick. Sean Noriega will actually do a bench workout the morning before his evening competitions. And on deadlift, this can be the most variable. There's a big difference between a real short range of motion upright sumo deadlift and a real bent over conventional with a mile long range of motion. Now the thing is, you probably have an idea already from your own experience how long it takes you to recover from each lift in your training. And you can use this to judge how far out to do your last heavy lift in your own training. So that's basically it, guys. Please like, comment more questions below. I'll be going over them in next week's Train Logging Q&A. And subscribe if you haven't already. And once again, thanks for watching.